Hey book nerds, welcome to my channel. Today I'm kind of doing a video which everyone and their grandmother did a couple of months ago now, and I never made it because I never saw a point of making it, and that is how I rate my books. And it wasn't that I don't think that people should have made those videos, it's just that I personally didn't feel the need to at the time. However, recently I've started reading lots and lots of non-fiction books, and it made me realise that I rate non-fiction very differently to how I rate fiction books. So I kind of wanted to talk about how I rate non-fiction because I feel like people who see my reviews of non-fiction might not understand how I review non-fiction. And then I was like, I might as well talk about how I rate fiction at the same time anyway, as a comparison thing. So that's what this video is going to be. It's going to be a lot of me talking, so sorry if you hate those kinds of videos. I don't really have anything to hold up this time. But yeah, even if no one else wants to watch this, I felt it important to make it, so yeah. So I'm going to start by talking about how I rate non-fiction because that is what prompted this video to be made. I don't think I will ever give a non-fiction book less than 3 stars. I could be wrong. There could be awful non-fiction books out there that I will end up reading. But the way I rate non-fiction is that it's not how much I like the book, it's how good a job I think the book does at getting its topic across. So for me, a 5-star non-fiction book is a book that is fantastically well researched, really engaging to read, and basically everything you'd want when you pick up a non-fiction book. So not only does it have the information in, but it gets it across in a really entertaining and enjoyable way. Anything from 4 to 4.5 stars is sort of the same, except it's lacking the entertainment aspect. So it might be really well researched and it might be really well written, but it's not quite as accessible to the average person, shall we say. And it's not that I don't think books can be technical, it's just how they go about being technical. So the important aspect as well is it's not how interested I am in the topic. I might hate a non-fiction book, I might think that I'm really interested in something, pick it up, read it, realise that I'm not interested in that topic at all. But if I can recognise that that book has been well researched and that the author has put a lot of effort in, and that if you were interested in the topic you would enjoy the book, I will still give it 4.4 or 4.5 stars. This is very different to my fiction books where the rating is very much tied into how much I personally liked it. I feel like I'm more objective with the non-fiction books. So a non-fiction book that gets around like 3.5 stars, which, like I said, is probably the lowest I can see it getting, is one where it might be really well researched but it's not well written at all. An example of this is one I read very recently, and I'll link the blog review down below so you can get an example of how it's a very negative review, but I still gave it 3 stars. And that was the review of The Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Its Terrifying Times by Joseph Stanza. And basically my problem with this book was that it wasn't cohesively written at all. There was a lot of information in it, but it didn't really link what it was trying to do together particularly well. And it was sort of what prompted this video, because I wrote that review and it does read very negative, and I guess the reason I rated it so high is because I can tell the author has done a lot of research and they just haven't written it well at all. Like if it was an essay at uni, it would be like a 50 or something. So yeah, that's kind of how I rate non-fiction books. Other important aspects are how well I think the author names their chapters and kind of organises the structure of the book, and whether they tell a story within the non-fiction topic. Yeah, that's kind of all I wanted to say about non-fiction books. So I guess the main takeaway from this is that if you see me, or if you read my reviews of non-fiction books, that's very different to my fiction books. So now I will talk about my fiction books. So I've kind of mentioned before, a 5-star read for me has to have, I have to have a strong emotional connection to that book. I give 5 stars very, very rarely. It has to be a book that I think I will want to reread at some point. I have a strong emotional connection with. I genuinely can't really think of anything that stopped me enjoying the book. So there might be flaws to it, but there's flaws that I don't care about. Whereas everything else has flaws that I do care about and that did impact my reading experience. Most of the books I read that I really like get 4 or 4.5 stars. I usually only give 5 stars on a reread when I'm sure that I loved this book. The exception was If We Were Villains, because I knew straight away that was a 5-star read. And the best example of this is Kill Creek by Scott Thomas. Fantastic horror book. I listened to it as an audiobook, loved it. Probably would give it 5 stars if I'd read it physically, but because it was an audiobook I felt like I couldn't definitely give it 5 stars until I reread it again as a physical book, and then I'm sure it'll get bumped up to 5 stars, but it's just how my personal rating system works. So yeah, 4 to 4.5 stars is a book I really like. 4.5 stars in particular might become 5-star read someday. 3 to 3.5. 3 is my average rating. 3 is technically a good rating, but for me it's a very meh rating. It means that there was nothing special about this book. There was nothing I particularly liked about it, and there was nothing I particularly hated about it. It is the absolute average, and these are usually the books that I will forget about, unfortunately. So while 3 stars isn't a bad rating, it's kind of maybe what I consider my worst rating, if only because I will forget about it, and that's not a great sign. 3.5 stars is better than average, so this is kind of a good book. I didn't love it. I might not recommend it to a lot of people, but it was enjoyable enough. I can see other people really liking it. I will probably remember it definitely, and I got something out of it. 2 to 2.5 star reads. Now we get into the category of books that I really do actively dislike. I rarely give 1 or 1.5 star ratings. I have to be really, really angry at a book to give 1 star, and there's only a few examples from years ago now where I have given 1 star, I believe. And it basically, if it's 1 star, it's an entirely unenjoyable reading experience for me. And not only that, but I don't think other people will enjoy reading this book, and I can't understand how other people enjoy this book. That's not blasting anyone else's opinion. I do know that people will enjoy that book, and I know sometimes I will give a 1-star review to a book that is someone's favourite book, but from my point of view, I don't understand how they can give that 5 stars, even though I can, because that's how humans work. But you know what I'm trying to say, hopefully. 1.5 star, I think that's probably my rarest rating, to be honest. I don't really know how I quantify 1.5 stars, apart from it's not the worst, but it's pretty close. And then 2 is usually my average bad book rating. I think I've given more 2 stars than any other amounts under 3 stars. And 2 is just kind of, it was boring. There's a lot I didn't like about it. Maybe it was a bit problematic. Maybe it was just an uncomfortable reading experience. And again, 2.5 stars. I'm not sure if I've ever given a 2.5 star rating. I probably have, but I guess it's just slightly less uncomfortable than a 2-star rating. I don't know how helpful any of that has been, because my fiction ratings are very linked to my emotions, which is why I haven't made this video before. But you can kind of contrast the difference between fiction ratings and the non-fiction ratings, and hopefully you found this interesting. If not, hopefully it makes you understand me a bit more when I talk about books. And yeah, I think that's pretty much all I wanted to say at this point. I hope you like this video. It's a little unusual for me. But let me know what you make of how I rate things. If you think that you rate them similarly, or if you rate them differently, I'd be really interested to know, particularly with regards to non-fiction, because I don't hear people talk about non-fiction as much as fiction. And I think for most people, I would imagine they rate it differently. I could be completely wrong. If I'm wrong, let me know. Like I said, I'm interested in any kind of discussion on this topic. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. It helps me out massively. And I hope to see you next time.